Hello there. Tonight, we wander into something very old, and very human. The quiet art of finding sleep. Long before bedrooms existed. Before clocks, before screens. Before the word insomnia had ever been spoken. People still knew this feeling. The soft pull of evening. The moment when light fades. When the world exhales. Every human who has ever lived has known this transition. The body growing heavy. Thoughts slowing. Breath deepening without effort. Sleep has always been a mystery. And a promise. A place we return to every night. Without fully understanding how it takes us in. For most of history. There were no pills. No digital alarms. No glowing numbers counting the hours. There was only night. And the earth. And the quiet intelligence of nature. People learned to listen. They noticed how certain plants softened the body. How warm leaves steeped in water made the chest feel open. How gentle scents slowed racing thoughts. How roots and flowers seemed to speak directly to the nervous system. These discoveries were not rushed. They unfolded over generations. A grandmother offering a cup. A traveler sharing a leaf. A child watching how elders prepared for rest. Sleep was not commanded. It was invited. Herbal remedies were never about forcing the mind into darkness. They were about signaling safety. About telling the body. In a language older than words. That it was allowed to let go. Tonight, we follow that ancient path. Not as instruction. Not as prescription. But as story. A story about how humans learned to drift. How the earth became a companion in rest. How sleep was once guided. By leaves. By warmth. By ritual. By time. There is no need to remember every detail. No need to hold on. You may notice the way your breath already knows what to do. The way your shoulders soften when nothing is required. We are simply walking together. Into the long memory of rest. All those quiet leaves and roots. All those cups held in warm hands. Have always pointed toward this same moment. The moment when the body remembers. How to rest. For most of human history. Sleep was not something to be solved. It was something to be listened to. Night arrived without electricity. Darkness was complete. The stars were bright enough to feel close. When the sun disappeared. So did the day's demands. People gathered near firelight. Voices softened. Movement slowed. And in that space. Between activity and dreams. They noticed patterns. They saw how the body responded to warmth. How steam rising from a cup. Seemed to loosen tight thoughts. They learned that certain leaves. When placed in hot water. Created a feeling of calm in the chest. That roots carried a heaviness. That traveled gently through the limbs. That flowers, dried and steeped. Could quiet the inner noise. That kept the eyes open. These were not discoveries made in laboratories. They were noticed in kitchens. In camps. In quiet huts beneath the stars. A shepherd sharing a brew at dusk. A parent easing a child into rest. An elder passing down a simple ritual. Herbal sleep remedies were never separate from life. They were woven into evenings. Not taken in isolation. But paired with dim light. With silence. With the turning of the sky. Chamomile became known for its softness. Valerian for its grounding weight. Lavender for the way it carried calm in the air. Lemon balm for easing the restless heart. Each plant offered something slightly different. As if nature understood that not every mind needs the same kind of quiet. Some nights call for gentleness. Some for depth. Some for a simple sense of safety. These remedies did not promise instant sleep. They offered permission. They told the body, "You are not in danger. The day has ended. It is safe to release." Even now, your nervous system still understands this language. A warm cup can slow the pulse. A familiar scent can soften memory. A quiet ritual can become a bridge between thought and rest. The earth never stopped offering these signals. We simply grew louder than them. But they are still here. Waiting. Long before bottles carried labels. Before powders were measured by the gram. Calm arrived in simpler forms. It came as leaves gathered at dusk. As roots lifted from dark soil. As petals dried in quiet rooms. These were the first calm medicines. Not created to fix sleep. But to support it. They were chosen by observation. By noticing which plants eased trembling hands. Which ones softened breathing. Which ones seemed to slow the endless turning of thought. A cup of chamomile before night. A bundle of lavender hung near the bed. Valerian steeped in warm water. On evenings when the body felt too alert to settle. These plants did not force rest. They whispered. They worked with the rhythm of the body. Not against it. Chamomile carried a gentle warmth. Like being wrapped in something familiar. It relaxed muscles that did not know they were tense. Valerian felt heavier. Grounding. As if the mind were being invited to sit back inside the body. Lavender did not need to be consumed at all. Its calm lived in the air. In scent. In memory. Even now. One breath of it can signal that the world is quiet enough to release. Lemon balm softened worry. Passionflower eased racing thoughts. Each herb spoke a slightly different language. To the nervous system. Together. They formed a library of calm. Not a cure. A conversation. They taught the body how to recognize evening again. Not through command. But through repetition. A cup held in both hands. Steam rising slowly. Light fading. These moments mattered as much as the plants themselves. Because sleep is not only chemistry. It is context. The body rests best when it senses safety. And these early remedies were always surrounded by softness. Low voices. Still air. A sky dark enough to hold stars. They reminded the mind that nothing more was required. That it could stop performing. That it could simply be. Before beds existed as objects. Before frames and mattresses and pillows. There were rituals. Long before anyone lay down on a raised surface. People prepared for sleep in ways that were woven into daily life. Sleep did not begin when the body touched a bed. It began in the evening air. In the lowering of voices. In the slowing of hands. In the way firelight softened the edges of the world. As daylight faded, work gently released its grip. Tools were set aside. Animals were guided into shelter. Food was shared slowly. Stories replaced labor. These moments were not merely practical. They were signals. Signals to the nervous system. Signals to the mind. Signals to the body. The world is becoming quieter. You are safe to soften. In many cultures, sleep began with water. Hands were washed. Faces were cooled. Feet were rinsed in bowls warmed by fire. Not for hygiene alone, but for transition. Water marked the boundary between effort and rest. Between daylight and night. In other places, smoke carried the message. Burning herbs. Resins. Wood with gentle fragrance. The air itself changed. Breathing slowed. Awareness turned inward. These were not decorations. They were instructions. Your senses were guided away from alertness and toward ease. Some cultures sang. Not loudly. Not performatively. Low hums. Repetitive tones. Simple melodies that did not demand attention. The purpose was not entertainment. It was entrainment. The mind follows rhythm. The body follows breath. Night rituals synchronize the inner world with the outer one. In places without walls. Sleep began by listening. Wind in leaves. Water over stone. Insects marking time. These sounds were not background noise. They were reassurance. The world is still here. You belong within it. Even the posture of rest was ritualized. People curled toward warmth. Toward fire. Toward one another. Sleep was not isolation. It was participation. You did not disappear into night. You joined it. Over time. Beds became symbols of comfort. Rooms became private. Light became controllable. Noise became optional. But the nervous system did not change. It still responds to the same cues. Soft light. Slower sound. Warmth. Repetition. Gentle predictability. Modern sleep often begins abruptly. A screen turns dark. A switch is flipped. The body is expected to descend instantly. But the mind evolved with transitions. With dusk. With ritual. With ceremony. This is why small acts still matter. Lowering lights. Washing hands. Breathing slowly. Returning to familiar movements. These gestures echo ancient pathways. They tell the brain. You are entering a different rhythm now. There is no need to be alert. No need to solve. No need to perform. Sleep is not something you force. It is something you approach. Gently. Predictably. With care. Long before beds existed. People understood something essential. Rest is not an event. It is a passage. And every passage needs a threshold. The body is always listening. Not with ears. But with nerves. With hormones. With subtle shifts in chemistry that happen quietly. Far below conscious thought. Every change in light. Every shift in temperature. Every pattern of sound. Is translated into meaning. Is it time to be alert? Is it time to move? Is it time to soften? The body answers these questions continuously. Gentle signals speak in a language older than thought. Warmth tells muscles they can loosen. Dim light tells the brain to release wakefulness. Slow sound tells the heart to settle into rhythm. Nothing needs to be commanded. The body already knows how to descend. In nature, These signals arrived without effort. The sun lowered. The air cooled. Crickets began their steady chorus. Firelight replaced daylight. Each change whispered the same message. You may slow now. You may let go. Inside the brain, this message becomes chemistry. Cortisol, the hormone of alertness, begins to fade. Melatonin, the hormone of night, begins its quiet rise. Blood pressure eases. Breath deepens. Muscles release their long-held readiness. This is not something you control. It happens when the environment feels safe. Gentleness is interpreted as safety. Harsh light keeps the brain vigilant. Sharp sound keeps the nervous system awake. Abrupt movement keeps the body prepared. Softness does the opposite. A lamp instead of a ceiling light. A steady voice instead of silence. A familiar scent instead of empty air. These are not luxuries. They are biological cues. Even the way you move becomes a signal. Fast gestures keep the body alert. Slow movements tell it there is no emergency. The pace of your breathing teaches the heart its rhythm. The softness of your voice teaches your mind its tone. The body learns from repetition. When the same gentle patterns return each evening, the nervous system begins to anticipate rest. Not as a command, but as a memory. This is how children fall asleep in the arms of routine. This is how animals curl into rest without effort. The body recognizes the sequence. First the light softens. Then sound becomes slower. Then movement becomes minimal. Then warmth gathers. Each step prepares the next. Sleep does not arrive suddenly. It unfolds. When gentleness becomes consistent, the body stops resisting. It does not ask, "Should I sleep now?" It simply follows. Like a tide responding to the moon. Like leaves responding to dusk. Like a lake responding to stillness. The body listens. And when it hears calm, it answers with rest. No matter where people lived. No matter how different their languages. Their climates. Or their beliefs. One need remained the same. Every culture had to rest. Across deserts and forests. Along rivers and coastlines. Beneath stars that looked different in every sky. Humans discovered the same truth. The body cannot remain awake forever. And so, each culture shaped its evenings. In warm regions, nights became a time of gathering. Voices softened around small fires. Stories replaced labor. Movement slowed. In colder lands, darkness arrived early. Homes became shelters of warmth and quiet. Candles replaced the sun. Hands worked gently. Never urgently. In mountain villages, evening bells marked the descent of the day. In coastal towns, waves became the final rhythm before sleep. In forests, wind through leaves carried the night signal. Different rituals. The same intention. To help the body let go. Some cultures bathed before sleep. Letting warm water loosen the muscles of the day. Others drank infusions of leaves and roots. Not as medicine, but as ceremony. Chamomile. Valerian. Lavender. Lemon balm. These were not just plants. They were messages. A cup held in both hands. Steam rising slowly. A scent that meant evening. The body learned what these moments meant. It learned that safety had returned. That effort could end. That the world had grown quieter. Even prayer served this purpose. Not only as belief, but as rhythm. Words spoken softly. Breath slowed. Attention turned inward. In this way, sleep became sacred. Not because it was mysterious, but because it was necessary. Every society built a bridge. From day into night. Some bridges were made of song. Some of warmth. Some of herbs. Some of silence. But all of them carried the same message. You are allowed to stop. You do not need to remain alert. You do not need to hold the world. The world will continue without you. For a while. And so, across time and geography, humans taught their bodies the same lesson. That rest is not weakness. It is survival. That night is not absence. It is repair. That sleep is not escape. It is return. A return to balance. A return to rhythm. A return to yourself. The methods changed. The need never did. And still, your body listens. For the same signals. It has always known. As centuries passed, the rituals remained. But something new began to grow beside them. Curiosity. People started asking. Why these gentle practices worked. Why warm water eased the body. Why certain plants softened the mind. Why dim light invited calm. Why repeating words slowed the heart. What had once been instinct slowly became observation. Healers began to notice patterns. Monks wrote about breath. Physicians recorded how rest healed. Midwives understood the rhythm of exhaustion and renewal. The ancient language of night started to gain a second voice. Science. Not as a replacement, but as a translation. It learned to measure what elders already felt. Heart rate slows in dim light. Breathing deepens in quiet rooms. The brain releases different chemistry. When evening arrives, chamomile calms because it gently interacts with the same receptors that invite rest. Valerian quiets the nervous system. Not by force, but by suggestion. Lavender changes how the brain processes alertness. Warmth tells muscles to release. Darkness signals the mind to turn inward. What rituals knew? Science confirmed. Sleep is not something we fall into. It is something the body is guided toward. The brain does not shut down. It shifts. Networks reorganize. Memories settle. Cells repair. Hormones change their tone. Every quiet habit becomes a signal. A lamp dimmed. A cup warmed. A room softened. A voice lowered. The body recognizes these cues as clearly as it recognizes hunger or thirst. It does not need explanation. It needs permission. Modern science did not invent rest. It simply gave names to what the night has always done. It revealed that sleep is not passive. It is active restoration. That your mind cleans itself. That your body rebuilds. That balance is recalibrated. And suddenly, those old rituals no longer feel quaint. They feel precise. They feel intelligent. They feel like a conversation between centuries. Between instinct and understanding. Between the ancient world And the quiet science. Now living inside you. You are not learning something new. You are remembering what your body has always known. There is something gentle that happens when the body realizes it is being looked after. Not watched. Not controlled. Simply, cared for. A warm drink held in both hands. A blanket drawn just a little higher. A room that grows softer as evening deepens. These are not luxuries. They are signals. They tell the nervous system that it is safe to loosen its grip. The body is always listening. It listens to light, to temperature, to rhythm, to tone. It listens to how quickly you move, how sharply you speak, how tightly you hold your breath. And when those signals soften, something ancient responds. The shoulders release first. Then the jaw. Then the space behind the eyes. Thoughts lose their edge. Time stretches. Urgency fades. You may notice that you do not have to make this happen. It arrives when conditions feel kind. Herbal remedies were never just chemicals. They were gestures. A way of saying, rest is allowed now. A way of telling the body that the day has ended. A way of marking the transition between effort and ease. Even today, when someone prepares a tea for you, or lowers the lights, or speaks more slowly in the evening, your body understands. It is being guided, not commanded. Sleep grows best in environments that feel considerate. Not perfect. Not controlled. Just, gentle. The mind does not resist when it feels respected. And the body does not hurry when it knows there is nowhere it needs to be. This is why the smallest rituals matter. A cup. A scent. A pause. They do not cause sleep. They invite it. And the invitation is often all the body needs. As this understanding settles in, it does not need to stay sharp. It does not need to be remembered as a list of facts. It can soften, like a story you once loved, but no longer need to retell. Like a path you already know. In the dark, the body is wise in ways the mind does not have to manage. It remembers patterns. It follows rhythms. It responds to kindness. You do not have to supervise it. You do not have to convince it. When evening arrives, and the world grows quieter, the body already knows what comes next. It has known for a very long time. Long before clocks. Long before rooms. Long before language. It learned from the sky. From the cooling air. From the way shadows lengthen. It learned that night is not an ending. It is a return. A returning inward. A returning downward. A returning home. And as you rest here now, with this knowledge drifting gently beside you, there is nothing left to hold. The story can loosen. The ideas can blur. They do not need to remain clear. They can become a soft background hum, like wind through distant trees, or water moving far below the surface. There is no task. No finish line. No need to stay alert. Only a quiet sense that everything essential is already in motion. That rest is not something you must achieve. It is something you are slowly remembering. Thoughts begin to lose their edges here. They no longer arrive in full sentences. They drift in fragments, in impressions, in soft shapes without names. The mind, which spends the day building and sorting and deciding, starts to release its grip. Not because it is told to, but because it feels safe enough to stop holding. Awareness widens, then thins, like mist over water, like light dimming in a distant room. You may notice spaces between thoughts growing longer. Moments where nothing needs to be understood. Pauses that feel open, not empty. In these spaces, the nervous system settles. Breath becomes quieter. Muscles remember how to let go. The body returns to its oldest rhythm. Nothing is missing. Nothing needs to happen. Even curiosity softens now, turning inward, becoming a gentle glow rather than a question. There is only a sense of drifting, of being carried, of floating inside something patient and vast. The world continues its slow motion beyond you. Stars burn quietly. Cells repair. Night moves forward. And you are allowed to move with it. Not by effort. Not by intention. Only by allowing what is already happening to continue. Like water finding its level. Like a tide returning to the shore. Thank you for drifting through these quiet facts with me. If even one of them made the world feel a little softer, a little wider, or a little more gentle, then this time has done its work. There are countless wonders still moving quietly around you. In the sky, in the earth, and in the spaces between moments. For now, there is nothing left to remember. Nothing left to follow. Only rest. Let the world continue on its own. And let yourself fade gently with it.